So we are studying Masechet Sanhedrin. I don't even remember what class this is. Maybe class number 10, maybe class number 11, whatever. We're in Daf Sadi Gimel Amud Aleph. Let me just give you the background because we haven't studied in a while. So I just want to kind of give you like the story of what's happening here, what the Gemara was talking about. I think this was the last class. We did the class with Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, right? Where they're thrown into the fire.
Yes.
Okay, it's good. So we did that. So let me just give you kind of like just some of the background. Shalom Aleichem. Give him a book, please. And what happened is that they were thrown into the fire because they refused to bow down before the Avodah Zarah. So Nebuchadnezzar made this huge golden obelisk. He demanded that everybody bow down. Everybody bowed down, including the Jews. Many Jews bowed down. And the only three people that didn't bow down was these three people. So that's kind of like where we saw, and there was a great miracle, and Nebuchadnezzar saw the miracle, and everybody saw it. So we are now up to Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So now we're going to be studying something about what happened. Now there's a pasuk in Zechariah. Let me tell you about Zechariah. Zechariah was a prophet. He lived at the beginning of the Second Temple. Okay? You ever hear of the four horsemen of the apocalypse? So it comes from the book of Zechariah. I don't know what the Christians did with it. I'm not interested in what the Christians did with it. But just so you know, this vision, which Zechariah talks about, is I think the foundation for when they talk about the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Now, it's actually not the apocalypse. So just so you know, the real story of this vision, and I'll explain it in a moment, is something that happened then, meaning in the days between the first Beit HaMikdash and the second Beit HaMikdash. It was a very dark period of humanity. Also, the period before the third Beit HaMikdash will be a very dark period of humanity. That'll be Gog and Magog, which we probably are in now. But this is not talking about the future apocalypse like the Christians want to say. It's talking about then. So here's what happened then. Ra'iti halayla. Zechariah sees the vision, and in the vision it's dark, it's pitch black. Ish rochev al sus adom. And I saw this man riding a red horse. Vehu omed ben hahadasim asher b'mesula. And this man was riding the horse. Suddenly, when a person has a dream, the dream suddenly changes or something happens in the dream. So he sees in the dream that this man, instead of riding a horse, he's now standing. There's a deep abyss. And in the abyss, there's let's say, myrtle trees. Hadassim are the myrtle trees. What we have in Sukkot, right? Which has a very nice smell, the hadas. So he's standing there, and let me find the place here also. Okay. So he was standing there between the myrtles. So the Gemara asks a question. What does this vision mean? This is Rabbi Yochanan talking. Mai ra'iti halayla. Why does the vision start with this pitch black night? Bikesh hakadosh baruch hu la'afoch et kol ha'olam kulo lelayla. God wanted to bring darkness upon the whole world. Why? Because, as you know, when Nebuchadnezzar, he was the emperor, he conquered many countries, and he forced everybody to do Avodah Zarah. Okay, so the Goyim did Avodah Zarah. They're not supposed to do Avodah Zarah because according to Sheva Mitzvot Ben Noach, one of the things the Goy is not allowed to do is Avodah Zarah. Okay, but worse than that is now, after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, so the Jews, they were in Babylonia, and they also participated in the Avodah Zarah. So God wanted to bring darkness upon the world. He wanted to destroy the world because there was no point in keeping it around. If everybody is going against the Torah, including the Jews, then what's the point? So that's a nighttime. V'hine ish rochev. What is this vision where he sees a man riding? And ish ela hakadosh baruch hu. This is referring to God when God presents himself as a warrior. So when God presents himself as a warrior, we have another pasuk which refers to God as Ish, Shene'emar, Adonai Ish Milchama, Adonai Shemo. So this is in Kiryat Yamsuf when Paro was chasing the Jewish people with the chariots. God, I'm sorry? Malkevot Paro v'chelo yarav hayam. So God presents himself as a warrior going to war, because the Jewish people really didn't have to do anything. God did everything. So he's referred to as an ish milchama, a man waging war. And so it's almost like God is now on his horse waging war. There's going to be destruction in humanity. Al sus adom. And that's why the horse, this first horse, because there's going to be 4 horses, but this first horse is red, a deep bloody red. Why? Because God wanted to bring this huge war upon humanity, and the war upon humanity will result in a lot of blood. So that's the initial phase of the vision. What happened? Because we know eventually what happens is that, in fact, let me get the book of Zechariah. Let me just read to you the entire vision. Where is the Tanakh? Right here. Right, and it's not 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So just to be clear, it's 4 horses. But again, they don't always quote, even when they quote the Bible, they don't quote things accurately, right? So it's important to know that as well, because many times they quote Pesukim and they say this refers to this such and such person, and they don't read things in a precise fashion. But nevertheless, now let me open up this pasuk. It's in Zechariah Perek Gimel. Here it is. Okay, Perek Gimel. Okay, no, I'm in Perek Bet. Here it is, okay. Okay. Zechariah Perek Aleph, my mistake. It's the first chapter, Zechariah Perek Aleph Pasuk Chet. Okay, so here it is. La'iti alayla, I was looking at the night. V'hinei ish, rocheb al sus adom. I saw a man, the warrior, God, presenting himself as a warrior. Rochev al sus adom, riding this red horse. Again, red representing blood. Vehu omed ben hadasim, and then I see the same man standing between the myrtle trees. Asher b'misula, which were in a deep abyss. Ve'acharav, and then after that I see susim. I see other horses. Adumim. Adumim is a different type of red, a lighter type of red. In addition to the two red horses, he also sees a horse that is serukim. Serukim, I don't know what serukim is. It's called sorrel, and I don't know what sorrel means. I believe sorrel is a different shade of red as well. Ulvanim. Sorrel is a color that's used to refer to a horse. Ulvanim, and finally I saw a white horse. So what are these different colors of horses? What's happening? Va'omar ma'ele adoni, and I say, what am I seeing? Vayomer elai hamalach, and then the angel speaking to me, hadover bi ani areka mahem ma'ele. I'm going to explain to you what you are looking at. Okay, so the Gemara is going to do exactly that. The Gemara is going to explain to us the vision. So we already know the beginning of the vision, God as a warrior. War in the world resulting in a bloodshed. What happened? But when these 3 Jews, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, they refused to do Avodah Zarah, the zechut of these 3 Jews, it outweighed the avonot of all the other Jews. So imagine, like you have a scale. So I don't know how many Jews did Avodah Zarah, and then you have the other side of the scale, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. So the zechut of Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, that they were willing to have themselves burnt alive, was so great that it outweighed all the avonot of everybody else. And God says, you know what? I'm not going to destroy the world because of these 3. Vehu omed ben hadasim ashril b'mesula. En hadasim, the hadasim, because we take the lulav, the etrog, the arava, and the hadasim. So the hadasim, they have a beautiful smell. So they represent a person who has good actions. Sadiqim, right? Sadiqim is a person who has good actions. It's very pleasing. So the hadasim in the vision represent the sadiqim, namely Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, that their actions were so beautiful and pleasing in the eyes of God. So that's the meaning of the vision, that suddenly God is standing between the hadasim, meaning God is aware of these sadiqim, and that's where the colors of the horses change. And I'll explain that in a moment. Shneimar vahi omenet hadasa, and referring to Esther, it refers to Esther as hadasa. So the real meaning of Hadassah means that was her name. Her name was Hadassah. Like they have a modern Hebrew name, Hadassah. All right, they use Hadassah. So the correct pronunciation I'm saying in the Bible, I'm not talking modern Hebrew, is Hadassah. But they say Hadassah because she was a Sadeket. So it refers to Hadassah. You got it? Like she was a Sadeket. So that's where that's the association between the myrtle and the Sadiqim, the pious. The En Mesula El Babylon. This deep abyss is a symbol for Babylonia because Babylonia was like a prison. You got sucked into Babylonia, people got sucked in, many ethnic groups were kidnapped and taken there, and there was no way to escape. So that's why it's referred to as a Mesula, as an abyss. שנאמר, האומר לסול החרבי בנערותייך אוביש. מיד מלאים רוגז, נעשים serukim ba'adumim, ne'esu levanim. Okay, let me explain to you also what happened. So the changing colors of the horses from deep red to a different shade of red, and finally reaching to the fourth horse, which is white. That represents, so what does white represent? Who knows? On Yom Kippur? Purity. Because we say on Yom Kippur, Im yu hata'echem kashanim, kasheli galbinu. So they say if the red cloth represents the Jewish people before the Kaparat Avonot, that's the red. And they used to have on the Seila Mishtaleach, they used to take like a ribbon, and they tied it on the Seila Mishtaleach, on the goat that they would send over, and a part of the ribbon they would keep hanging on one of the gates in the Bet HaMikdash, and it was red. And then when they would throw the Seila Mishtaleach over the cliff, and then there would be Kaparat Avonot for the Jewish people, the red ribbon would turn white. So it says, if your sins are going to be red like blood, they're going to turn white like snow. So the red horses turning into white horses represents the fact that God changed his mind. He was going to bring destruction to the world, but he says, no, I'm not going to bring destruction. I'm going to forgive the Jewish people because of the zechut of these three tzaddikim. And by the way, that's what we say in the morning, on Monday morning, when we say Anshe Emunah Abadu, we say people that we can, that have that emunah, people of emunah, they're no more, and therefore God, we're alone. We have nobody to rely on. We don't have people like Hanan, Mishael, and Azariah. That's what it means. It used to be that we had people like Hanan, Mishael, and Azariah, and their zechut would be so great that even though we're not so good, it would be forgiveness to the Jewish people. So we say before God, Anshe emunah avadu. What are we going to do now? We don't have people like this, right? So that's the meaning of this vision. Right? Okay. Amar Papa. Shema mina susya chivra ma'ale halama. Thank you. And the Papa says, if you see a white horse in a dream, that's a nice symbol. It means that God is going to forgive you for your sins because the color white, chivra, is a symbol of kaparat avonot. Right. V'Rabbanan lehecha azlu. So now the Gemara asks a very interesting question. It's really an amazing question. So this is, okay, the book of Daniel, it goes on, and the first, I think, 7 chapters, it's stories of what happened in the days of Daniel. The story of Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah finishes, and we don't hear about them anymore. What happened to them? Why don't we hear about Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah? We hear about what happened, they were thrown into the fire, they didn't do Avodah Zarah. What happened afterwards? It says, V'Rabbanan lecha azlu. What happened to these 3? So there's 3 answers, 3 alternative answers. I'm going to read to you the answers. I'm going to explain to you the simple meaning, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to explain to you the deeper meaning. Amarav be'ayin hara metu. The first explanation is given by Rav. He says they died because of ayin hara, some sort of evil eye. I'll explain that. Ushmuel Amar, the second answer, berok tavihu, that people spat at them and they ended up drowning from the spit. Again, I will explain that. Fair enough. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Alu le'eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yochanan gives a completely different answer. They moved to Israel, v'naseu nashim, they married wives, v'holidu banim u'banot, and they had children. Those are the 3 answers. I want to explain to you what these 3 answers mean because it seems bizarre. Let's start with ayin hara. What does ayin hara mean? Ayin hara, people take it in a mystical fashion, some sort of magic, some sort of, the evil eye. I don't take it as a mystical thing. The world is filled with envious people. Now, let me explain to you what Ain Hara is. I have a very good way of explaining it. Bezos. So Bezos wants to open an office in New York a few years ago, right? So comes AOC, not necessarily the greatest intellectual known to the Western world, and she's against AWS, Amazon, she's against Jeff Bezos. Why? Because they're going to be getting a tax break. They're going to be getting a tax break, I don't know, $3 million a year, or whatever the tax break was, I don't remember, right? So you can say, it's terrible. Jeff Bezos is a rich person. Why should he get tax break? Kick him out of New York. He shouldn't be here. What's that? Okay. That's Ain Hara. Ain Hara is when you're envious and you only know how to see something in a negative fashion. I mean, an intelligent person will look at that and say, wait, hold on. Amazon, 50,000 jobs, billions of dollars to the U.S. economy, unbelievable amount of tax revenue for the U.S. economy. Maybe they could have helped pay for the illegal immigrants that live here now and get $10,000 credit cards, all that fun stuff, right? But Ain Hara makes you crazy. It makes you crazy. Instead of saying, wait, this person is going to help the economy, he's going to create jobs, he's going to bring tons of money, there's a $3 million tax break. That's not fair. That's one example of Ain Hara. You look at something in an evil fashion because you're nuts. You're nuts. I have a great example of Ain Hara. This is in the days of Stalin. By the way, evil politicians, you want to know if you live in a bad country, you want to know if you live in a good country. If you live in a good country, politicians are not going to try to turn people against each other. Well, America was like that for many, many, many years. There was Democrats, there was Republicans, we all got along together, we went to baseball games and ate hot dogs, we had kosher hot dogs, we had non-kosher hot dogs, everything was fine, right? But there was a basic sense of camaraderie. When the Twin Towers fell, nobody cared if you're Democrat or Republican, nobody, and that changed. You live in an evil country where politicians are trying to divide people, because they're trying to divide people not because they care about the people, it's because they care about their power. So one of the great examples in history, and this is also a great example of Ain Hara. So Stalin comes into power in Russia, you have the Russian Revolution, the guy takes over, and he wants power. Okay, so what do you do when you want power? You cause one group to be against another group. So he went to the poor people of Russia, and he told them, look at these kulaks. The kulaks were the Russian farms, not the gulags. The kulaks were the Russian farms. They were very successful. They had, back then Ukraine was part of Russia, and it was tremendous wheat production, and they had nice houses, they worked hard, they sold food to Russia, and Stalin basically poisoned the minds of the peasants. Not that the peasants weren't to blame for being stupid. If you act like a moron, so you act like a moron. So there's always going to be useful idiots in any society. So I'm not trying to vindicate useful idiots. I'm just trying to describe what happened. So he poisoned their minds, and he basically told them, this is not fair. These people are living in these nice houses. They're making so much money. Look at this. Look at their farms. Look at this. So there was horrible atrocities were committed. I don't want to get into the details. But certainly the owners of the kulaks didn't come out alive. Let's just leave it at that. They were massacred. Basically these peasants destroyed the farms, destroyed everything. I think within 2-3 years, I might be off a number of years, but something like between 20 and 30 million Russians starved to death. You killed you destroyed the kulaks, right? We got them, these evil, rich people, look what they're doing. But it's the same thing in America when they talk against the rich. And again, it's not that I'm in favor of rich, I'm not in favor or against, I'm just trying to analyze things, right? So, I was about to say a bad word. I didn't say it. I was about to mention Trump, but I'm not going to mention that. But people who are rich, they're terrible, they make all the money, but they also create jobs. You need them in the economy, right? They produce things, right? Elon Musk, horrible, he's so rich, he's so that, but they're producing, right? They're making actual objects that we need, okay? So the point is, Ain Hara is a sickness which says, find this thing that you don't like about that person, and that becomes it. There's nothing else. All you see is the evil. So you see the rich kulaks and their nice houses. It's just not fair. So Ain Hara is destructive. So what happened? These Jews, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, they were good people. They were good, decent people. And they ended up killing them. They were jealous. What's with these Jews? Why are they so, they're happy and they have values and they have morality, and who the heck do they think they are? They're better than us. They don't pray to our Avodah Zarah. They don't do this, that. So one shita is they died from Ayin Hara. I take it literally. They were murdered. They ended up being murdered by the peasants, who knows what, by these crazy maniacs. By the way, why do you think they attack Israel? Why do you think people are against Israel? What, they don't know what we all know what happened on October 7th. It's not a secret. Of course they know. They're against Israel because Ayin Hara. They're successful. Look at the state of Israel. Go any place outside of Israel. Go to Egypt, Assur, Jordan, Assur, Turkey. Turkey actually have a very nice airport. But most of the country in Turkey, most of it, they're terrible poverty, right? Another failed country. So they're all failed countries. Suddenly you go to Israel. Beautiful, Janan, amazing buildings, gorgeous beaches, the parks, the neighborhoods. You walk down Dizengoff Street at night, people are smiling, where do you have that in the Middle East? People smiling, now the UAE made peace with Israel. Give him credit. We're going to give him credit. Bahrain made peace with Israel. Give him credit. Soon there's going to be Bezrat Hashem, Saudi Arabia also will make peace, I hope. Qatar, what do you call it? Qatar. Qatar, let's call it Qatar. That's what it is. Qatar. You know how many people died in slave labor conditions building the soccer stadium there? Unbelievable misery in the country. And suddenly you have Israel, no slavery, right? No oppression of minorities, right? Rights for everyone, right? Freedom of religion, freedom of this, freedom of that, freedom of that. Everybody's happy. You're going relative. When I say everybody's happy, every country has its miserable wretches. They also have progressive left-wing loonies there. Just so you know, let's not get ourselves. But as a country, it's a successful country. They have a great military, young demography. They can't stand it. It drives them crazy. They hate Israel. Ayin Hara, that's the truth. They hate Israel because of Ayin Hara. So Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were killed because of Ayin Hara. That's the first explanation. The second explanation is very similar. People spat at them and they drowned in the spit. Very similar idea. In one case, it's Ayin Hara. You're looking at the person. You're jealous. You're envious. Right? But what does it lead to? It leads to the spit. When you're always talking bad. Oh, you're evil Jews. You're bad Jews. You're crooked-nosed Jews. You control everything. Right? So the Ayin Hara leads to the spit. You see the connection? It starts out with you become envious, but you're quiet. But then you begin to talk. So all these people were like from the river to the sea. They all lived here 5 years ago. Nobody said anything from the river to the sea. But what do you think they were thinking in their mind? Ayin Hara. But now the spit starts coming out. So you see the transformation from Ayin Hara, quiet. Oh, yes, good morning, sir. Good morning. I hope we have a nice day. Right, he wants to stab you in the back. But he's saying, I hope you have a nice day. That's the truth. Now we know the truth. We didn't know this before. All right? So the truth is, they're anti-Semites. But then it turns into spit. They start saying it out loud. They can't control themselves. That's a second opinion. And you know what the third opinion is? And it's connected. And this is the truth. The third opinion said, I'm reading it for you again. I just lost the place. Yeah, the Rabbi Yochanan Amar Alu le'Eretz Yisrael. They went to Israel. They went to Israel. They married, and that's it. What does it mean? They went to Israel and married. It means as follows. Sometimes you live in a society. Once they start getting infected with anti-Semitism, just you want to have a normal life, get the heck out of there. Just leave. Just leave. Even in the days of Maran Kadosh, I believe he was born in Spain, and then his uncle, because I think his parents were killed somehow, his uncle just went to Israel. There was no state of Israel. There was no state. There was nothing. It was just, they went to Tzfat. They had a very nice Jewish community in Tzfat. He lived there. Wasn't perfect. There was poverty. There was this. But they just said, the heck with this. We don't need to be with anti-Semites. Spain went down the drain. It was like a world superpower. Jews left. It went down the drain, never recovered till today. A few years ago, they wanted to do a citizenship, hoping that by Jews coming back, maybe Spain will become ascendant again. Ain't going to happen. That was just a failure. So anyway, so that's it. That they realized. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah realized with these loonies, with these anti-Semites, we're going to Eretz Yisrael. We don't care. They went to Israel and they lived happily ever after in Israel. Okay. Continuing in the Gemara, Ketanae. And there's a similar argument among the earlier rabbis who said exactly the same thing. Rabbi Eliezer Omer be'ayin hara metu. One rabbi says it was be'ayin hara. Rabbi Yehoshua Omer berok tavu. The other rabbi says with spit. The Hachamim omrim, and then the third group of rabbis says alu le'eretz Yisrael v'naseu nashim ve'olidu banim ubanot. And how do we know that they went to Israel? There's actually a pasuk. They bring as follows: Shneimar. And this is in the same. Remember, we read Zechariah about God being a warrior riding the red horse, and then the horses become white, and he ends up with the myrtle branches. So about a chapter into that, or 2 chapters into that, the pasuk says, and this is what we're reading now, that Zechariah in the vision, he sees Yehoshua HaKohen Gadol. So Yehoshua was a Kohen Gadol. So when Ezra made Aliyah, when Ezra moved from Babylonia, and he started the new Jewish community in Jerusalem, and he rebuilt the second Beit HaMikdash, or he begun to rebuild the second Beit HaMikdash. So the Kohen Gadol was a person called Yehoshua, right? And he sees in his prophetic vision, Zechariah sees this Kohen Gadol, and here's a pasuk. It says, Shema'ana Yehoshua HaKohen HaGadol. Listen, O Joshua, the Kohen Gadol. Ata ve're'acha hayoshivim lepanecha. I want you, together with your friends, and what your friends, I'm referring to these people who are anshe mofet. What does the word mofet mean? Mofet is another word for miracle. So who's the anshe mofet? Ata ve're'echa hayoshevim lefanecha ki anshe mofet hema. The anshe mofet refers to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, that they were the ones who the miracle happened to because they were thrown into the fire and they got out of the fire. Ezohem anashim shene'esa lahem mofet. Who were the people that were thrown into the fire and a miracle happened and they were rescued? Heve omer ze Hananiah, Mishael, ve'Azariah. This is Hananiah, Mishael, ve'Azariah. So those are the 3 options of what happened to them. Okay, we'll start it. I just want to say something. Okay. So we're going to deal now with Daniel in a moment, because the Gemara wants to deal with what happened with Daniel during this time. But I just want to say that I read, I think it was an autobiography. Yeah, he wrote the book. It was Rabbi Shlomo Goren. So Rabbi Shlomo Goren was the chief rabbi of Israel in the 70s. You remember when Harav Yosef was a Sephardic chief rabbi? So the Ashkenazic chief rabbi was Rabbi Shlomo Goren. Rabbi Shlomo Goren wrote a biography. He said something very interesting, and it reminds me of this Gemara. You know, the 3 choices: Ayin Hara, one choice; spit, the other choice; third choice, going to Israel. So in the story, he says how when he was a little boy, his parents lived in Poland. Everything was destroyed by the Nazis, you know that. But this is before World War II. So before World War II, his parents lived in Poland. And then they wanted to move to Eretz Yisrael. There was no state of Israel, but people were moving to Israel during this period. So what happened is, now his father, he was a little boy, but his father belonged to a particular Hasidic sect. And his father wanted to move to Israel, so he goes to the head of the sect, Rabbi, I don't know what the name of that rabbi was. He goes to his rabbi. He says, look, I want to move to Israel. So the rabbi tells him, well, why do you want to move to Israel? Now, meaning, don't move. That's all. That was his way of saying don't move. So the father was very upset. He didn't know what to do. He really wanted to move to Israel. They had a very large family in Poland. He had many, many brothers and sisters. His wife had many, many brothers and sisters, like some crazy number. It was like, I don't know, 10, 8, whatever. So then they didn't know what to do. So they talk with their friend, and their friend says, your wife belongs to a different Hasidic sect, right? Because the wife's family, why don't you have your wife ask her Rebbe? Okay, good idea. So she goes, asks the Rebbe, says, yeah, you can move to Israel. So, okay, so they moved to Israel. The whole family is like, why are you moving to Israel? But whatever, they made a big party, everybody was there, it was a very successful family, doing very well. Why are you moving? What are you doing? You know, it's going to be really hard in Israel. It was really hard in Israel. There was like no houses. It was like they ended up living in tents and there was swamps. They lived, I know exactly where they lived. Like it's an area north of Haifa. And that whole area back then was like swamps and mosquitoes and They're just unsanitary conditions. It was terrible. This is during the days of the British Mandate. So the British were in charge, and there was Arabs shooting at them, and he describes how he got malaria. He described it, like it was an amazing description, like just, in and out of consciousness. He didn't know how much time passed, and at some point he got over it, and apparently it was 2 weeks he was under, and he thought it was a day or something. Okay, but that's what happened. So they moved, and they ended up going to Israel. Now, after the Holocaust was said and done, their entire families were wiped out. There was nobody left. There was, literally nobody left. That's it. All the brothers, sisters, both sides, wiped out by the Nazis. So when I think about that story, and then I think about Hananiah, Mishael, and I realize sometimes when you see what's happening, right, you gotta, the Mishnah says, Ezu Chacham Haro'et Hanolad. You have to see ahead of time before it's too late. Because what happened is, when many Jews, after the Holocaust started, they want to run away to Israel, the British, they prevented them. It was crazy. But we have to know our history. The British did not want Jews to come into Israel, while the Germans were killing the Jews all over Europe. So now Jews try to come to Israel. It was too late. They couldn't make it. Hazah. They couldn't make it. But also, I know in America, they didn't let Jews come to America. What?
They turned them away.
They turned them away. So guys, just so you know, I don't like saying this, but they're not all our friends. No, you see what I'm saying? We got to be real. They're not all our friends. When the Mashiach comes, they'll be our friends. Okay, no problem. Fair enough. But right now, they're not all our friends. They got this dark, sickness when it comes to Jews, right? So his family, Chazit, Rabbi Shlomo Goren, he writes in his book, they had nobody left. They were all wiped out. Anyway, right, so let's continue. What time is it in back? Somebody tell me when we get...
Don't the evangelicals want us all to go to Israel? Because they believe that in order for their Messiah to come, they have to bring us home and kill us?
No, I don't know if is it to kill us? Is that what it is? No, I don't know. I think what it is, I believe, but I could be mistaken. It's not an area that I study. I think that, they believe that for their Messiah to come, the Jews have to live in Israel. And it has to be a Jewish state, but I don't know the details exactly. I know a lot of them seem to be very pro-Israel, so I don't want to take it away from them. Meaning, if it's not true, meaning if they're really not pro-Israel, I'd like to know. But from what I've seen, at least, they appear to be very pro-Israel, and they probably believe that once the Jews are in Israel, the Messiah will reveal himself. The only thing is they have the wrong Mashiach in mind. It's fine. I'm sure that when our Mashiach comes, they will accept them, and I mean that literally. I mean it not in a sense of sarcasm. I really do believe that they will accept the Jewish Mashiach ben David wholeheartedly. Yes. Okay. Let's now. Somebody tell me when it's 9:14. Okay. Because the clock is back at me, right? So I can't see it. All right. Let's continue. So that's what happened to them. Now, continuing now with Daniel. So the Gemara asks a question. Where was Daniel during this whole incident? Because it is one of two possibilities. Either he bowed down, chas v'shalom, and God forbid, of course he didn't bow down. But if he didn't bow down, that means that he should have been thrown into the fire. And there's nothing about Daniel being thrown into the fire. So where was Daniel during this whole episode? 3 opinions. Okay? This is one of the most bizarre Gemariyot I know of, but I think I figured out what it means. And I'll tell you, but let me first read it. I'll give you the 3 opinions. Amarab. The first opinion was, he went to the city of Tiberias and he dug a huge canal there. As you know, Tiberias is right next to the Kinneret. And the Kinneret is, even till today, one of the main water sources in Israel. So Daniel was in the city of Tiberias digging this huge canal connecting Tiberias with the Kinneret. That's one opinion. Ushmuel Amar, le'atuye bizra de'aspasta. Okay? Shemuel says he was going to buy alfalfa seeds because what do you use alfalfa? So the horses. What do horses eat? So one of the things they eat is alfalfa. Also, cattle eats alfalfa. So he was going to buy this. Likely, why would he buy alfalfa? Because Nebuchadnezzar needs it for his livestock, right? That's the second opinion. So he wasn't present. He wasn't there. But Rabbi Yochanan, this third opinion, and this is the most bizarre one. Le'atuyeh chazireh de Alexandria shel Misraim. He went to buy pigs from Alexandria, which is in Egypt, so that he can bring the pigs to Babylonia. So first of all, let me just deal with history. As a historical fact, Alexandria had in Egypt in those days, under the Ptolemies at least, had apparently a special breeds of pig that were considered very desirable for their meat, and so the idea here is that he went to Egypt to buy these pigs so he can bring them back to Babylonia to breed them so that they have good pig meat in Babylonia. So first of all, this is really bizarre, right? This is like really crazy. And you think of Daniel, like this is what Daniel is doing? He's buying pigs? Okay. I want to explain this, but how much time do I have? What time is it in back of me?
9:14.
Okay. So you want to go to line 20? Is that okay? Everybody good with that? Okay. So before we explain it says Ini. So first the Gemara has a question. Ve'atanya todos harofe amar en para v'chazira yosam me'Alexandria shel Misraim she'en chotechin ha'om shela b'shvil shelo telet. So first of all, there's a question. The question is as follows. There was a statement by Todos, Theodis, the doctor, and he says nobody was allowed to smuggle any of the pigs from Egypt because it was a very special breed, and if anybody got caught in the customs, sometimes you're trying to come into America or you come into Mexico, you have some food, they catch you, whatever. So if anybody leaving Egypt was caught with a pig, one of the pigs, they would cut the uterus of the pig so it wouldn't be able to breed, right? So how can you say that Daniel went to get the pigs from Egypt to Babylonia? There was no possibility. So the Gemara answers, no. Zutre aite bela datayu. He was able to smuggle in little baby piglets, and like this, they didn't catch him in the customs. He got the pigs from Egypt to Babylonia. Okay, this is one of the most bizarre Gemariyot, and I want to try to explain to you what this means. There's three possibilities. Possibility number one is, what does it mean to live in the Galut, right? So when you live in Eretz Yisrael, you're under the Shekhinah, there's a special intelligence, spirituality that comes from God, and it stimulates the brain and it triggers one to become more conscious of the presence of God. But when you're in the Galut, you can be a person like Daniel. And what do you do? What did you do with yourself? So what did you do? So he was involved. He was the viceroy of Babylonia. He worked for Nebuchadnezzar. And you know what happens to Daniel? So one possibility is he's going to be supplying the alfalfa grain for the cattle, for the horses of King Nebuchadnezzar. That's not a very pleasant thing to write on the tombstone. I was the main supplier of alfalfa for Nebuchadnezzar. But that's a possibility. Okay, another possibility is you take the most tameh animal in Judaism, which is the pig, right? It's a symbol of everything that's no good. You go to the most tameh place in the world, because there's different places in the world. According to halakha, we should live in Israel. But if you don't live in Israel, you can live any place you want to live. It doesn't make a difference except for one country. You know which country you're not allowed to live in? Egypt. There you go. Egypt. Isur d'oraita to live in. So here you have Daniel, Ruach HaKodesh, visions, everything. And what is he doing with his time? He's going to buy pigs, baby piglets, right? I forgot to smuggle in the baby piglets, so that he can, apparently Nebuchadnezzar wanted them, because Nebuchadnezzar wanted to breed it in Babylonia, and he's going to do it. And so again, what do you write on the tombstone there? Okay, something very...
Pig importer.
Elohim Yishmor. Hard to believe. But then, there's a third possibility. The third possibility is you use your power to help the Jews in Israel. Use your power as a viceroy in Babylonia to just do something very simple. A project to dig a canal in Tiberias, so when the Jews return to Israel, they have water to drink. So here's what happened, and this is what I understand. Daniel can't go to Nebuchadnezzar, start wearing, religious garb and talis and tefillin and, all that, and go to Nebuchadnezzar, I want to help the Jews, let's build a synagogue here, I want to build this there, I want to do a mikveh there. Nebuchadnezzar's not going to let that happen. So Daniel was really smart. He says, look, first of all, I'm going to get you pigs from Egypt. Oh, wow, that's true. I guess he's okay. But, he's right? Really good way to dissimulate your real intention. I'm going to use some alfalfa for your horses. Really good alfalfa. It's going to be strong. Let's build a canal in Tiberias. You have the Kinneret, you got this amazing lake. One day you're going to have Tiberias is going to be a good city in Babylonia. Build a canal. You see how you hide everything. A smart guy, you're now the advisor to the president. You're not going to say, let's go to Israel, give them $10 billion and give them the president ain't going to listen to you. But if you start talking about, let's do this and this and this and this, and let's give the Israelis this and that. Oh yeah, good idea, smart.
Let's give Ukraine $100 billion and sprinkle a few to Israel.
There you go, exactly. So Daniel was a brilliant mind. He knew what he was doing. His main thing was the canal. Just one thing, you know what I accomplished in my life? When the Jews came to Tiberias, they had water to drink. What an accomplishment. Right? But that's all hidden between the pigs and the alfalfa and Egypt and this and that. That's a leader. You see that? All right, so I think we'll continue next week.